Imagine it is 1945, and the bomb does not fall on Hiroshima. It falls on London. That single change, one city, one bomb, one different flag on the plane, rewrites everything. The borders on every map, the language children learn in school, the name of the century you are living in right now. And the terrifying part, it almost happened. The gap between that world and this one was not a matter of decades. It was a matter of months, a handful of decisions, a few men who changed their minds. This is the story of how close Germany came to building the atomic bomb first, and what the world would look like if they had. To understand it, you have to go back to 1938. A scientist named Otto Hahn is working in a laboratory in Berlin. He is not thinking about weapons. He is not thinking about war. He is trying to understand the structure of matter itself. And then, on December 17th, he splits a uranium nucleus for the first time in human history. He writes to his colleague Lise Meitner, who has already fled Nazi Germany because she is Jewish, and tells her what he found. She does the math. She realizes what it means. The energy released by a splitting atom is almost incomprehensibly large. Nuclear fission has just been discovered, and Germany is the country that discovered it. What happens next is where the story gets strange. The Nazis have a head start. The physics is German. The scientists are German. The infrastructure is there. And yet by 1945, Germany has no bomb. America does. Why? The answer is a man named Werner Heisenberg. Heisenberg is arguably the greatest physicist alive in 1939. He is the father of quantum mechanics. He wins the Nobel Prize at 31. When the German army asks him to lead their nuclear weapons program, the Uranverein, the Uranium Club, he says yes. And the entire world holds its breath without knowing it. Here is where historians still argue. Heisenberg makes a calculation error, a significant one. He concludes that a nuclear weapon would require tons of enriched uranium, an amount that is essentially impossible to produce under wartime conditions. The American Manhattan Project, led by J. Robert Oppenheimer, will eventually determine the real number is much smaller, just a few kilograms of the right material. Heisenberg's error is not small. It is the error that may have saved the world. But did he make it by accident? This is the question that haunts the history of the 20th century. Thomas Powers, in his landmark book Heisenberg's War, argues that Heisenberg may have deliberately slowed the German program, that he understood what a Nazi bomb would mean, that he chose quietly to let the calculations drift in the wrong direction. Heisenberg himself, after the war, suggests something like this. His colleagues dispute it. The debate has never been fully settled. What is not disputed is this: the German program stalls. Meanwhile, on the other side of the Atlantic, something enormous is being built. The Manhattan Project employs over 130,000 people. It costs $2 billion. It spans 3 countries and dozens of secret facilities. And critically, it is staffed by the very scientists who fled Nazi Germany. Leo Szilard, Edward Teller, Enrico Fermi, Hans Bethe. These are the men who built the American bomb, and they are all European refugees, many of them Jewish, many of them driven out by the exact regime they were now racing to defeat. Think about that for a moment. The Nazis, in their obsession with racial purity, expelled the greatest physics minds in the world, and those minds walked directly into the Manhattan Project. The ideology that was supposed to make Germany strong had handed its greatest weapon to the enemy. But what if that had not happened? What if Hitler had not passed the law for the restoration of the professional civil service in 1933, which removed Jewish scientists from their university positions? What if Lise Meitner had stayed in Berlin? What if Einstein, Szilard, Fermi? What if none of them had left? The calculation is almost impossible to run, but the direction it points in is clear. And there is another factor: heavy water. To build a nuclear reactor, the first step toward a bomb, you need a moderator to slow down neutrons. Germany chooses heavy water. America, advised by Fermi, chooses graphite. This decision alone may have been decisive. Germany's heavy water supply comes almost entirely from a single plant in Vemork, Norway. On the night of February 27, 1943, a small team of Norwegian commandos ski through a blizzard, descend a near-vertical gorge, and destroy that plant. The operation is called Gunnerside. 12 men, no casualties, and they delay the German nuclear program by perhaps 2 years. 2 years, that is the margin. That is the distance between this world and the other one. Now imagine Gunnerside fails. The commandos are captured. The heavy water flows. Heisenberg gets the numbers right, or someone corrects him. Germany's program accelerates. By late 1944, they have enough material. They have a device. Where does it go? Not on a missile. The V-2 cannot carry the weight. But Germany has bombers. Modified Heinkel. He-177s with extended range. And by 1944, the primary targets are clear. London, Moscow, possibly New York with a one-way mission. The geopolitical consequence is not just military. It is psychological. One bomb on London does not win the war outright, but it changes the negotiating table entirely. Churchill cannot hold. The British public, already exhausted after 5 years of war, fractures. The pressure for a negotiated peace becomes overwhelming. Stalin, watching from the east, recalculates. The American public, who have not yet been bombed, begin to ask what exactly they are dying for. Hitler does not need to conquer the world. He only needs to make the cost of defeating him unbearable. The historian Richard Rhodes, who wrote The Making of the Atomic Bomb, frames it this way. Nuclear weapons are not just military tools. They are political instruments. Their power is not only in what they destroy, it is in what they make people afraid to attempt. A Germany with even one functional nuclear weapon in 1944 is a Germany that can negotiate its own survival. And that survival means the Holocaust continues. The camps do not close in 1945. The machinery of extermination, already at its most efficient, keeps running. This is the part of the thought experiment that is hardest to sit with. Not the geopolitics, not the maps, the people. The 6 million who were saved by Germany not having the bomb. Because the liberation of the camps, Auschwitz, Treblinka, Sobibor, Belzec, happens only because Allied armies reach them. A negotiated peace in 1944 or 1945 does not include inspectors. It does not include disclosure. Whatever is behind those fences stays behind those fences. The world that Germany wins is not the world of science fiction Nazis with rocket cars. It is something quieter and more permanent. A Europe partitioned under terms favorable to Berlin, an Africa carved up further, a Middle East where British influence collapses and German economic dominance fills the gap. A Cold War, if you can call it that, not between America and the Soviet Union, but between a nuclear Germany and a nuclear America, separated by an Atlantic Ocean that suddenly feels very narrow. And you, where are you in that world? That depends on where your grandparents were in 1945, whether they were on the right side of a border that shifted, whether they spoke the right language, whether they practiced the right religion. The world you are in right now, the one where you are watching this video on this device in relative peace, is not the default. It is not the inevitable outcome of history. It is the result of a Norwegian commando mission in a snowstorm. A physicist who may or may not have made a mistake on purpose. A dictator who could not stop himself from driving away the very minds he needed. The atomic bomb did fall in 1945, on Hiroshima, on Nagasaki, and those events are their own horror, their own moral weight that history has not finished reckoning with. But they ended a war that a German bomb would have extended or transformed into something unrecognizable. Otto Hahn, when he learned that Hiroshima had been destroyed by a weapon built from his discovery, reportedly broke down. He sat alone in his room for hours. The thing he had found in that Berlin laboratory in 1938, the thing he had shared excitedly with Lisa Meitner in a letter, had become this. Tonight, when you look at a map of the world and see the borders where they are, remember that they are not natural. They are not inevitable. They are the residue of decisions made by specific people in specific moments. Some of those decisions were heroic, some were accidental, some were the quiet courage of a scientist who may have chosen, in the privacy of his own calculations, not to give a monster the end of the world. And that choice, if it was a choice, is the reason you are here.